What's up, everybody? Jack Farr here on behalf of Box to Box Football, just doing my weekly power rankings. Sorry they're a little late this week. I've been a very busy boy. So, starting in from 20 through to 16. Number 20, I do have a heavily dropping Roma. A little bit of a scary loss to Napoli. Quite an injured side for Roma, to be fair. First legitimate loss of the year, which is why they don't fall off completely, but it sees them take a real dip in the Serie A table. One thing I will say, this was a Maradona death X team, so maybe I've not worded that particularly well, but what this kind of says to me is that any team that would have faced Napoli would have potentially lost here. Moving on to 19, Manchester City. We're starting to see more of what I'd expect to see from a Pep Guardiola team, with some bigger wins starting to pull up. And one thing I will say about this list, you'll start to recognise a few of the names. We're at a point in the year now where some of the better teams are starting to figure it out and show their true quality. So Pep Guardiola and Manchester City in at 19. Number 18 is Manchester United. 4 wins on the bounce now. Bruno Fernandes shows how incredibly important he is to this team. And for me, possibly the best player on the planet right now. Going very strong, especially with a win yesterday, I believe. Moving on to 17, I've got Paris Saint-Germain. The form is solid enough, but they have dropped a great deal here in the list, purely due to a lack of consistency, which is just such a big problem. They'll probably win the league again. Obviously, we know it's not the strongest league in the world, and they'll probably not make it in the Champions League. This is not what the stars of PSG are looking for. Moving on to 16, we've got Braga, our first team from the Portuguese league, making an appearance. I've got to just give them a little credit here. I'm not saying that in a head-to-head, Roma, Man City, Man United and PSG wouldn't beat Braga, but with 6 wins in a row, you just have to give them a little bit of credit. They're really surging up the Primera Liga there. In at 15, I've got Villarreal. Still in a very respectable position, I would say, in La Liga. I know a lot of people may criticise their spot on this list, but the 2 draws that they've had in a row now are against Real Madrid and Real Sociedad, who are both obviously strong teams. So it doesn't look to me as worrying as maybe it does to some of you. Number 14, more familiar faces, Juventus. They're undefeated, so you might think maybe they should be higher, but with 5 draws and 5 wins of those 10 games, they're just losing a little bit of that killer instinct, which would usually be in place to knock away some of these lower Serie A teams. Obviously, over the last 10 years, they're not dominating this year as much as they have been before. But with the likes of Ronaldo returning, getting some consistency in terms of his games, and Pirlo really kind of find out this team, who knows where they might finish. 13, we've got Inter Milan. Now, they're second in Serie A, stringing together some wins and certainly looking more and more like the Antonio Conte side that we saw last season as each game week passes. Number 12, we have Lyon. 3 wins on the bounce. Only 1 loss all season, I think, really says it all. They look really good, but the one thing I will say that's very common with this Lyon team is they look fantastic, and then a transfer window passes and they may not look so good, and then they can work it out, and then they can not look so good, and then they can work it out, and then they can not look so good. The turnover of the squad is usually a huge impact on that. With the likes of Memphis Depay leaving, obviously this either in January or this summer, just another signifier of that. Number 11, we have Monaco. 4 wins on the bounce now and looking really solid. Tough test today against a tough Lille team. I think that match might even be happening right now. The Lille team, who I think were really good kind of earlier in the year, so that'll be interesting to see them. But as of right now, I've got Monaco in at 11th. In at number 10, I've got Bayer Leverkusen. They're undefeated this season. A lot of these teams, I think I'm going to give a lot of credit to teams that aren't losing games. There's obviously way too many draws for their liking, but you've got to give them a lot of credit, especially losing the likes of Kai Havertz in the off-season as well. In at number 9, we have Marseille. 5 wins on the bounce for them. Making some serious moves in that French league. Obviously not the strongest league going, but you'll notice a few French teams in here because there's a few of them who are really putting together some consistent performances. Number 8, RB Leipzig. They were holding, in my opinion, the best team in the world to a mad 3-3 draw yesterday. They've got Manchester United to come midweek in the Champions League. And Leipzig do look very, very good value in second position in the Bundesliga table and are playing very, very well. Number 7, I have Liverpool. Now, some of you may be thinking, they don't really deserve this spot in their list the way they've been playing. The reason why I'm giving them their credit here and putting them in 7th is because of how well they're doing despite all the injuries. I think all of you know at home that if this was a fully fit Liverpool team, it would be Bayern and Liverpool fighting it out for the number 1 spot on this power rankings list. But despite all their injuries, they're still doing reasonably well. 1 loss all season is amazing. I cannot state that enough. In at 6th, we have Chelsea. Obviously, there was that frustrating game against Jose Mourinho's Spurs, which I think we all expected to be such because it was an absolute classic Jose performance. It's not perfect, but, you know, after that draw, they beat Leeds 3-1 yesterday, and I believe that they are certainly in the ascendancy, and I do expect Chelsea to just get better and better. In at 5, we have Real Sociedad. Now, Real Sociedad's glistening form really does continue. A draw with a strong Villarreal side. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow, but they're in a really, really strong spot now in La Liga. The likes of Barcelona falling off. Real Madrid, okay, making some ground back, but still not so strong. Real Sociedad are playing well and holding that second position, trying to make Champions League football in La Liga this year. In 4th, we've got Milan, still top of the table. Still a game in hand with that as well. They do look the real deal this year, and I do have to say that, begrudgingly so, it is nice to see an AC Milan side come back and really be back in the fold and be very, very promising. Obviously, big time in thanks to Mr. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but also some other players in there that are performing very, very well, and they do look the real deal. Number 3, I do have Spurs still. Spurs remain in a strong position with Jose. They're yet to play this week, so we'll see how that goes. But they managed to close down a very, very potent Chelsea team in that classic Mourinho fashion, and it could be the start of something special, as I have mentioned in weeks past, for Spurs and Jose Mourinho fans. Number 2 and number 1, this was the closest it's been so far. Atletico Madrid are number 2. So close to beating out Bayern to the top spot this week. Everything points towards they probably should be the best team in the world right now on these rankings, but I still just think Bayern are a better side generally. 7 wins in a row for this Atletico Madrid team, undefeated. Good showing in the Champions League against Bayern. They look to be the odds-on favourites for La Liga this year. Simeone looks like a man on a mission. That squad knows each other so well. They've been playing together a long time. And you've also got now the additions of probably a pissed-off Luis Suarez, João Felix kind of getting to know this team a bit better and feeling a little more comfortable. Real threat, and I would say probably the favourites for the league and maybe a threat in the Champions League as well. Yep, number 1 is Bayern. By the skin of their teeth, they do hold on to top spot. For my money, it still is the best team in the world. The draw with Leipzig, obviously potentially concerning, but I do have them as 8th on this list, and they're 2nd in the Bundesliga, so hardly the biggest crime that they could make. The teams below them, I would say, have more closed the gap instead of Bayern getting worse, if you see what I mean. But for my money, still the best team in the world. Obviously, a week where Bayern maybe don't look so good and Atletico look great again, things may change. But yeah, there is my list. One thing I will say about this list, certainly less Sassuolos, less Vitesse Arnhems in this list this week round. We are getting to that stage of the season, guys, where familiar faces are starting to find their place to the top of the table, and the better teams are kind of figuring it out and figuring the best way that they want to play their best teams and getting back on form. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. I know James mentioned the Patreon, which we do have up and running now. It's £1 a month just for some extra content as well. But yeah, until then, I'll see you next time.